Welcome back, guys. My name's David, and today we're going to go through Civil 3D storm pipe systems. We're going to show you how to use those in Civil 3D and build them into your project model and export them to run other calculations. So let's learn.
Hey, this is Casey with Civil Logistics, and today we're going to go over how to lay out a pipe network in Civil 3D. So here I've got this project pulled up which is ready for us to start laying out pipes. And first we're going to go over a couple things that you're going to need before you start to do your pipe network. So the three things that you need before you start doing your pipe network are a surface, the location of your pipes if those haven't been determined yet, and an alignment. So this project I'm coming in behind someone else, so a lot of work's already been done. So here we've already got locations of all the pipes, a couple of rough inverts for certain pipes, and there is already a surface. I can go ahead and turn on our proposed surface layer, isolate that so we can see it. So this is our proposed surface. So we've got everything that we need to start our pipe network except for our alignment. So I'm just going to go back to the grading plane here. So you don't actually need an alignment to draw on your pipe network, but it will be needed for when you do your profiles and for the pipe network to generate correct and proper labels on your plan. So it's generally good practice to start out with an alignment. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer for the alignment. So I'll drag over my layer property manager so that you can see. Typically this is going to be a CZ layer. It's not going to plot on any of the sheets. So I'll just hit new layer. We'll name it CZ Storm Align, and then I like to make the color magenta. That way it's bright when I'm working in model space and I can see it. But if it somehow does accidentally get plotted, it'll plot as a very thin, very light gray, so it won't show up as very overwhelming over the pipes if it accidentally gets plotted. So that's why I choose magenta for that. So we've got our layer made. I'm going to go ahead and move that back over to the other monitor, and we're going to start drawing our alignment. So it's good to draw your alignment from the most downstream point to the most upstream point. Whenever we do profiles, which will probably be in a separate video, all of our profiles are gonna run, essentially the direction of the alignment is gonna run from downstream to upstream. All that changes is kind of the orientation of your profile. So if they run from downstream to upstream, then your profile is going to run from downstream to upstream from left to right, which is what we want. So we're just going to trace along these already known locations for the pipes. We're just going to go ahead and attach to this catch basin. This catch basin isn't quite oriented correct, but we'll worry about that in a minute. We're just going to keep drawing our alignment, which needs to all be one polyline. So I'm just going to keep going. And we'll just stop here for now. We'll kind of do up to this catch basin just to show how to do the pipes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to correct these catch basins. So I'm just going to rotate these guys. Actually, it might be better to align them. Oops. Let it do its thing and load. Our catch basins are going to be against the face of curb. I'll move this guy down a little bit until it's roughly in the right spot. Like right there. And our pipes will run like that. Same thing with this guy. I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this catch basin or align it so that it lines up with our face of curb. And then we'll just move this guy up so that it's roughly in the correct spot. What's this guy? We'll just ignore that for the time being. So this path, this white line that we just drew along the alignment, this is going to be the path that our pipes follow. So now we're just going to go ahead and create our alignment. So if you go to the Home tab and then the Create Design tab, this is going to have your alignment, and you can click Create Alignment from Objects, and you can select an arc line or polyline. So we're just going to select this polyline that we just made, hit Enter, and it's going to give you a prompt if you want to accept the current alignment direction or reverse it. So the current alignment direction is going to be shown by arrows that are on the alignment. A lot of the times they show up very, very small and they can be kind of hard to find. Usually they're at either a vertex or at the midpoint of the lines. So here's one of these arrows. So this is running from downstream to upstream, which is the correct direction. So we're just going to hit enter. If it was the wrong direction, you'd hit R for reverse and then hit enter, and it would reverse the direction for you. But we're just going to go ahead and hit enter because it's the correct direction. And we can go ahead and name our alignment. Naming convention is really important. So typically with one sort of pipe system that's separated, we'll name them by letter. So we'll name this one Storm A. And then you go up Storm A, B, C, D. Typically your largest run of pipe is going to be Storm A, and your second largest is going to be Storm B, third largest Storm C, and so on. We're going to go ahead and click this little button right here to set the alignment layer. And we're just going to pick that layer that we made a couple of minutes ago, the CZ Storm Align. Okay, and then we're going to make sure to check this box, add curves between tangents. We want this off. Click OK, we want this off. If you have that box checked, then it'll automatically add a radius that you specify at every vertex. This is really useful for doing road design or for alignments for corridors, but pipes don't bend, so we don't want that box checked. That's very important. Alignment label set, you can either do CVLX or no labels. I typically do no labels because the labels that it automatically generates don't get used or shown on the plans. They're not very useful. So I just throw on no labels. I usually delete them anyways. So we'll just go ahead and press OK. Now it disappeared because our alignment layer is not on, so we'll go ahead and turn that on. Here it is. This is our alignment. I'll drag our properties pane over here. As you can see, this is an alignment and no longer a polyline. It's got some special properties. We'll go ahead and move this back over. So now we can start to create our pipe network and draw on our pipes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, again, Home tab, Create Design, and the Pipe Network. Click the drop down and click Pipe Network Creation Tools. So this is going to pull up our creation pane for making a new pipe network. There's a couple different things that you can do when you have multiple runs of pipe. I'll just close out of this so we can see. When you have multiple runs of pipe, like we do on this large residential project, you can either create a pipe network for each separate run of pipe or each separate system, or you can create one large pipe network. There's a couple advantages to this, or two key things that you need to know. One is that two separate pipe networks cannot tie into each other. So if we were to later on add a pipe that ties in from this guy over to here, but these two were two separate pipe networks, then they would not be able to tie into each other because they're separate pipe networks. So typically with smaller projects where there aren't as many pipes, I'll just make one large pipe network. The advantage to making separate pipe networks is when we export our pipes into storm sewers to model them in storm sewers and generate hydraulic grade lines. That opens a tab and you can export them by network. So if you have one huge network that includes all of these pipes, you'll have to click a little drop down menu and you'll have to go in structure by structure and pipe by pipe and select the ones you want to export and the ones you don't want to export. So making a separate pipe network for each large enough run of pipe can make it a lot faster when going through that process. It's the same thing when you're doing profiles. You have to go and pick each structure and each pipe one by one. So making different pipe networks can be very helpful and help speed up the profile creation process as well as exporting to storm sewers. But for projects that don't have a ton of pipes, it's typically not necessary. But for this one, we'll probably end up doing multiple pipe networks, but we're just going to do this run now for this demonstration. So we'll go back to our grading plan. We're going to go to, again, Home, Create Design, Pipe Network Creation Tools, and we're going to name our network Storm A. Our network parts list is going to be CVLX Storm. If you're doing sanitary sewer pipes, you'd select CVLX Sanitary, but we're doing storm pipes, so we're going to select CVLX Storm. If you click this little Layers button, this is very similar to the tab that we were on before with the Alignment Creation Tools. You're going to be able to select what the default layer is for both structures and pipes to automatically get assigned to as you're laying them. So typically, the only layers we're going to change here are the pipe plan layer and the structure plan layer. The profile layers all stay on the 0 layer because those are off to the side. Those aren't on top of our plan view of our site. So those can stay on the 0 layer. But if we change the pipe plan layer to CG Util Storm, which is our layer for storm utilities, and we change the structure plan layer, now when we lay out our structures and pipes using the Civil 3D parts and with the pipe network, they'll automatically be on those layers, and we won't have to go and select them all after the fact and then put them on the correct layers. So I always change those. Our surface name is always going to be our PG surface. So I'm not exactly sure which one's the correct one. I didn't double check. I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's rough PG, but we can go back and change that later if need be. But your reference surface for all your structures and all your pipes should be PG. Our alignment name is going to be the alignment we just made, Storm A. Our structure label style, I usually put all of these on none and then come back and add labels later on, which you can do very fast. You can add labels for each and every structure all at once on plan view and on profile view. So typically I come back and do that later instead of cluttering my screen with a bunch of labels that don't have correct information. So I typically leave these as none. We'll press OK, and that's going to pull up our network layout tools. So now we have a pipe network. I've got my tool space pulled up here on the right hand side of my screen. And if you see, we have pipe network, click networks. Now we have our Storm A pipe network, which has pipes and structures under it. We haven't made any pipes or structures, that's why there's nothing under this tab. But once we have made some pipes and structures, when we click on pipes and structures, this box will populate with all the properties for each pipe and each structure. So now we're going to go ahead and lay down, or start laying down our pipes and our structures. Go ahead and turn off the grid snap. So it looks like the intent was for all of these pipes to be 18 inch because they're all polyline width. I'll go ahead and drag the properties over here. They're all polyline width. Well, this one's a polyline width of 2, so 24 inch pipe is what this is supposed to be. Some of these are 18 inch, which is polyline width of 1.5. 1.5 feet is 18 inches. So we're going to assume that this is 24 inch pipe or intended to be 24 inch pipe. So we're going to select 24 inch HDPE pipe. And these are the pipes and structures that once we start laying down our pipes and structures, that's what it's going to lay them down as. You can come back behind yourself and change out certain pipes and certain structures as needed. But we're going to select 24 inch HDPE. And here at this outfall into the pond, there's likely going to be a head wall. And then at each vertex following along our alignment, which I'm just going to go ahead and turn back on so we can see, following our alignment is going to have a concentric cylindrical structure. Our parts list currently, oh, it looks like it's been updated. Cool. So we've got some concentric cylindrical structures already in here. The key things that you need to know is the two that we typically use are concentric cylindrical structure and cylindrical structure with a slab top. The difference being that the cylindrical structure has a conic shape at the top and the slab top is cylindrical with just a manhole on the top. So that's important later on. We won't get too deep into that now, but those are typically what we use. And then there's also parts for head walls, concrete, rectangular, wing, and head wall, and all these sizes that we already have spec'd out. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to select cylindrical structure slab top, and we'll do a 48 diameter or 4-foot structure, which is pretty typical. Usually structures are going to be 48 or 60 inch diameter structures, 4 or 5 feet. Unless they need to be bigger for particular cases. So we'll just go ahead and select this guy as what we're going to start drawing in our 24 inch HDPE. And now these are what are, this structure and this pipe is what's automatically going to get laid as we start drawing. Just real quick, you can click this button here and this is going to allow you to change your parts list. And if you click this pencil brush, this is going to allow you to add new parts, new part families, and spec out new pipe sizes and new structure sizes. So you can come in here, you can add a part family by right-clicking on CVLX Storm, or you can right-click on an existing part family and add a part size where you spec out the part size. We're not going to need any of that right now, but it is very common to have to spec out particular part sizes if they're not already in our parts list, or if you need something for a special case. So now we're going to go ahead and start drawing. Hit reset what we were drawing in. We'll give it a second to load. Just go ahead and grab what we need again, 24 inch HDPE. Concentric cylindrical slab top, 48 inch. Typically we do conic, but it's not looking like we're having, it doesn't look like we have one spec'd out, so I'll actually spec one out now. So go to CVLX Storm, concentric cylindrical structure, add part size, do a wall thickness of 6, floor thickness 6, frame diameter 48, and inner structure diameter 48, 24 cone height That's fine. Click apply, okay. So now that size should be in here for us to select from. Concentric cylindrical structure, we scroll down, here it is. 48 frame isn't quite correct, I believe that should be 24. So I'm just gonna go ahead and edit that really quick. 24, apply, okay, okay. So we'll just go ahead and grab that guy again. And our 24-inch HDPE. And then we're going to click this button right here to start drawing pipes and structures. You can click this drop down to draw pipes only or structures only. Typically, we always draw on pipes and structures. So we're going to come to the end of our alignment. And the reason that we draw our alignment first always is because it's really your alignment vertices need to be on the points on the actual structures. I'll show you that a little bit more in depth in just a second. So whenever you're drawing your pipes and structures, it's very helpful to draw using the alignment as reference, so using the endpoints of the alignment. So I'm going to go in middle mouse space E to start drawing on the endpoint, and then I'm going to go to the next endpoint, middle mouse space E on the alignment, and I'm just going to draw along my alignment for the entire length. We'll go all the way up to where we ended our alignment, which is right here, and we'll hit escape. So now we've got a structure and a pipe laid out all along our alignment as far as we went up for this run of pipe. One thing is that it automatically assigns the line type, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this polyline so that we can see a little bit better, which got me up to this guy, so I'll delete that guy, and we will break here. Okay. So it's automatically going to assign the line type for the pipes to be whatever the layer you set them, which is CG Utostorm. We don't want that. That looks ugly, the pipes being dashed like that. So we're just going to go ahead and change our line type back to continuous. So now we've got our pipes laid in and our structures. We can go ahead and delete these blocks. So we just remember there's a catch basin on these two corners. So these three most upstream structures are catch basins. The rest of them are probably going to be manholes. This one might be a yard inlet. Not sure yet. But we'll just go ahead and delete these guys. The reason we can delete these is because you can change the style of your structures to show and be the exact same thing. That way you don't have to have blocks on top of your structures for them to look correct in plan view. So now we've got structures and pipes laid all the way up, downstream to upstream. One thing to do that's very good practice is to click on a structure, click this modify drop down, and click change flow direction. This is just going to make sure that your flow direction is running in the correct direction once you start assigning inverts. So it's going to tell you to select the intended upstream structure, which is this guy, and then the intended downstream structure, which is this guy. And then, as you can see, it follows the run of pipe all the way from the upstream to the downstream, and hit enter. So now our flow direction is running in the correct direction. And then you're going to want to name your structures and pipes. So the naming convention for structures and pipes is very, very important. The reason it's important is because when we export to storm sewers, you have to punch in information for each structure and each pipe in storm sewers to correctly generate your hydraulic grade lines. So just to explain this quickly, when punching that information into storm sewers, you punch in the drainage area and it's assigned to a certain pipe. So water doesn't directly drain into the pipe. It drains in through structure first and then goes into the downstream pipe, flows through into the downstream pipe. So as an example, you might have a drainage area that drains to this inlet here, and then all the water that drains into this inlet is going to go into this downstream pipe. So to make it not confusing, the name for the downstream pipe should match the name for the structure. So typically we name structures and pipes starting out at 0 and also assigned to their pipe network. So this is pipe network A, or storm run A. So we're going to go from downstream to upstream, 0 all the way up. So this head wall here will be named head wall A0 or A0. And this will be A1, A2, and so on. So because this one is A1 and this is our downstream pipe, this pipe should be pipe A1. So that's the naming convention. And a quick way to rename all of these pipes and structures is you can click on a pipe or a structure, click the modify drop down, and then click rename parts. And this is going to upload a menu for you to fill out this information in these counters, and it's going to rename all the pipes and structures that you selected. So you have to go into your plan view and select in order structure pipe, structure pipe, structure pipe from downstream to upstream. So we'll just do that now. We'll select structure pipe, structure, pipe, and it'll rename all the parts in the order that you select them. So if you select them in the wrong order, then they'll be named in the wrong order. So we'll go from structure pipe to structure all the way to the end, and then we'll click rename parts. Our structures are going to be named A, and then whatever the counter is. So all of the information inside of the carets are essentially the code for the counter. So the parentheses, if I left the parentheses there, it would just be A, not, and the not would be inside parentheses. And then pipe is going to be the same thing. It's going to be pipe A, and then our counter. And you can click this little button right here. This is going to allow you to edit your counter. So we want our starting number for our structures to be 0 and go up by increment values of 1. And we want our starting number of our pipes to be 1 because the first pipe is the downstream pipe for structure A1. Structure A naught is an outfall, so there is no downstream pipe. So we want our starting number to be 1 for the pipes. And then I always click this little option, rename existing parts. If you have to rename parts multiple times because there's some sort of error or they're wrong, then you should always click rename existing parts. If you click skip number, then if an increment value hits the same number as what the structure's already named, it'll just skip the number and then they'll all be wrong from then onward. So I always click this guy, rename existing parts. We'll press OK, and then I can click on this structure, pull the properties over here, and as you can see, it's named A5, which is correct. And then the pipe, which is downstream from the pipe, is pipe A5, which is correct. So now we've got our structures and our pipes named, and we've got them pretty much mostly set up. A couple of things that are particular for your plan view. Pipes, we usually use the style depending on what type of the pipe is. Just go ahead and pull my properties pane over here again. We typically use the style CVLX HP Storm for HDPE pipe. You can use CMP for corrugated metal pipe, RCP for reinforced concrete pipe. Most of the pipes that we do are typically HDPE, so they're going to be CVLX HP Storm. And this is what the style should look like. This is what the pipe should look like on your plan view. And then you can go structure by structure, and you can change the style for each structure. So these three are all catch basins, single wing catch basins. So I'm just going to grab them all, and I can change them all at once and make them a single wing catch basin like this. So now they're all single wing catch basins. And you can grab this guy and rotate them around so that they're the correct orientation and get them lined up the way that they should be, like that. Same thing with this guy. So now the structure actually shows as a single wing catch basin on your plan view. And single wing catch basins are still concentric cylindrical structures. They just kind of have a little concrete portion on the inside that drains, is sloped into the middle here, that drains all the water into the concentric cylindrical structure. So they're still the same structure, just kind of the piece on top is different. And then down here, like I said, this one's probably going to be a manhole or maybe a yard inlet. You can go to style, change it to yard inlet, but they're all the same structure underneath. They just have different topping pieces. A yard inlet essentially has a weir that allows water to flow in, and a manhole just has a manhole cover on the top. So you can change the style so that it looks correct in your plan view, and the style will affect how it looks in your profile view as well. So you just kind of have to figure out what styles show up correctly on your plan view and your profile view. This one could be a yard inlet as well. So we can do that. If we regen, the pipes will go into the structures. Obviously we don't want them to look like that, so we'll just grab a structure, select similar, which grabs all of our structures, and we'll just bring those to the front. This guy is probably going to be a head wall. So we initially drew in all of our structures and pipes using a concentric cylindrical structure. So this is not the correct structure. So to swap a pipe or a structure to a different type of structure or pipe, you can click on said structure or pipe and then go to the Modify tab and hit Swap Part, and this is going to pull up your parts list, and you can change it to a different part. This one's likely a head wall, so we'll come and we'll select a head wall, press OK, and then now it's a head wall and it's no longer a concentric cylindrical structure. And then we can go to our style and we can select a head wall. Now it's going to look like a head wall, like it should be. And now each part in each structure is the correct type of part, all the way up to as far as we went. So this is how you set up pipes and structures in Civil 3D. If you do it this way, you should be all set to start drawing out your pipe profiles and export into storm sewers for further analysis. Thanks.